I wanted to make a little video, a little bit more on the fun side for once, and its basically topic is what are the biggest hopes that sufferers of hypermobility and genetic diseases in general have? And I put three that I believe are sort of in the cards, but it is in the order of less likelihood. So this one is, I think, pretty likely. In fact, it's already happening. Second one is less likely, but I think it's a good chance, much higher chance than there was of it happening in the last 20 years, for it to happen in the next 5 years, I would say. And then the last one is a new community country, which I think is pretty unlikely, but could get there. I don't know, maybe in 10 years or something like that. So, so for here, let's go with the first one, right? I opened up Neuralink, which is most people know this company by now. It's one of Elon Musk's companies, and I'll do a little recap of it. Basically, if you haven't heard of it, what they do is their mission is basically to get us ready for merging with AI. And basically, the way they explain it is that currently, like we have two systems, two or three. Don't quote me on any of this, obviously, but like I think there's like two systems we currently have: the reptilian brain and the human brain, right? So it's like the upper one and then the one that stems all the way down. So the upper brain is what makes us human. We can do mathematics, compute, language, all that kind of stuff. While the lower part is still animal. It's still back from evolution, right? So that is like the part that we're still animals, right? Like we're still basically animals. like that. This is where a lot of our intentions, hunger, a lot of our stuff comes from. That's like innate desires, etc., etc. So long story short, what this would be is this is the goal of this is to become a third layer, right? So we'll have our first like a human brain at the top, then our reptilian brain, but also our third brain, which would be like the merge with the AI. And what that's supposed to do is that currently, we can get a lot of information visually, but when it comes to output, we're very slow. So the example is given, right? Like you can look around the world and you can get a lot of data, right? The weather, everything we can collect visually, we can feel things. When it comes to like interacting with the network, like let's say if we want to know something, we have to go to Google and search each query one by one. If we didn't really have to search it one by one, but we would just viscerally have that information available to us at all times, then it would be more powerful. So like, all the articles ever written on Google, all the information out there, if we needed to recall or have access to that information, if we could have it on demand instantaneously or at an extremely, much more faster rate where it would seem instantaneous compared to now, then we would be much basically more powerful. And and without digressing too much, the reason why this comes into health is because the initial steps is to first install a piece into the brain, right? So you have to get a little brain, a little hole on your skull is made, and the initial stage would allow you to use the computer and technology without your hands, just by thinking it. So as you can now understand why I'm so excited about this, and I'm putting it as my number one, is because of that. It's going to right away, even on stage one, fix mobility issues that people like myself are going through. And I think the first candidates are going to be actually people who are paraplegic. I think that's how you pronounce it. People who are just completely paralyzed and they can't even move. And obviously they come in line even before people like me. And then after them, I guess, would be people like us. But the point is, that's like stage one, and then knowing Elon Musk, he's gonna have to go through a few stages before he can take it all the way. But this is one of the most exciting things, and they do have some fun videos on YouTube you can check out, like one with a monkey, and where like they would record how he's playing this game. This is just to get a little treat of banana, but once later on they disconnect this, and the monkey keeps on.
Is to play his favorite video game.
See, he's thinking and moving everything.
To control his paddle on the right.
And this is just by the patterns that the system recorded. He was moving in his brain when he was using the joystick, and now he could just think and do it. So long story short, that's the first one, Neuralink. And then also, like whatever could be uncovered once they get into this, they will get a lot more data and information how the brain works that could open up some stuff, right? The second one is a tech and entrepreneur entering the space, like a direct entrepreneur entering the space for hypermobility, or like vagus nerve issues, or like autonomic nervous system dysfunction issues, whatever it may be. Like if you look at currently, like where a lot of the tech like core entrepreneurs go to, the big industries are like health, not health, but finance. Then they go in just actual, like just pure tech, right? Like software, and creating new companies in that kind of space, but not much come into the health space because of how much regulation it has and how much of a pain I feel like a lot of big, very, very smart people would not want to deal with all this kind of like politics that's surrounding the health space, that would kind of drive them away. But as it opens up, and I think there's going to be within the next not many years from now, hoping that a core tech entrepreneur enters the space with the 4 or 5 major problems that I've been dealing with or seeing around us. And the reason why I put this as one of the top hopes is because if you look at really like many industries, like let's say if you go to real estate, right? What's like something revolutionary in it? It's not usually the people in like a realtor who's going to come up with something revolutionary. Generally, it's going to be an outside tech entrepreneur who has like fundamental, like a lot smarter in things like mathematics and computer science and code, and then he has that skill set and he enters almost as a newcomer into the space of real estate, and then boom, comes out Zillow, right? And you can see this across the board. Whatever industry and that had some huge revolution, you'll see that it's an entrepreneur that is a very smart entrepreneur gets in with his core skill sets in maybe computer science, coding, etc., and then he revolutionizes that industry. Classic example is Elon Musk. Elon Musk is not he's not a person who designs like cars, right? He's not like a, how do you say? I mean, he does, but he's not like somebody just working in the car industry and worked his way up or anything like that, like at all, right? His core skills was like coding and innovation, and he made PayPal, and then he wanted to go into the car industry because of the impact it could make, and then boom, he enters it, and within relatively short amount of time, like 1 decade, he outtook companies that had been here over 100 years. And this is really lacking in the health space, especially for chronic illnesses. And I think this is for very quite a lot of reasons. One of them is regulation and all the stupid things surrounding the space that makes it kind of hard for entrepreneurs to even embark on this direction. But also, a lot of chronic illnesses are just not as well known. We have the obvious ones like cancer and everything like that, and I think that's what's really going to get fixed first with things like gene editing and whatnot. But there's not much. The voice in the community for chronic illnesses is for a lot of them are very soft, right? And since their voice is soft, nobody hears them. Partly maybe because literally a lot of the community that suffers from certain diseases are not people who have the time to go out and start riots or protests or for certain things. They're just suffering in their homes, but also because a lot of people, I think, don't enter the spaces because like there's not much I guess demand for it, right? A lot of chronic illness are pretty low chance. I myself are facing ones that's 1 in 200,000 people, right? So the demand for the market is quite low, and then even if you crack it, it's like the problem is very hard to crack, and then if you crack it, the reward you get is not so high because there's not a lot of people who want it or need it, right? It's just the people who do need it are suffering a lot, but it's not to say that there's a big market space for it. So it's just one of those things where there's not just not a good formula for people to enter the space, right? Like Elon Musk entering electric cars, I mean, that's like, look at the market. The market for electric cars is all the cars that are being bought, basically. That's the market for electric vehicles, and he can enter in that, and if he gets a good chunk in that, and it's like it's gonna blow up. Well, you don't really have that for niche chronic illnesses. And what the hope would be is somebody entering the space is what I think the way it would come out is, one, the regulations would have to go down, right? They have to be less political. All this stuff they make about like how like stem cells is an example I just pulled up. They say like how it's illegal in America because you're transporting humans' bodies and all this kind of stuff. A lot of this doesn't make sense for something that can help a lot of people who are suffering. And for in this example, you're literally throwing the umbilical cord away, and it still has so much regulation that people can't innovate in this space, right? I myself got 2 stem cell therapies. It didn't really help me, but it's pretty clear that this direction has a lot more that you can find out that can almost for sure help a lot of people that are suffering from chronic illnesses. But in the United States is not going to really go for it. They're going to keep these regulations, which is going to in turn keep a lot of entrepreneurs away, or just create a whole red tape and make it less desirable for a new very smart person who wants to get in and make an impact. So the way I think this will happen is a little bit less regulation will come in, like it will start to open up for certain spaces, especially as things like CRISPR and some companies in gene editing are making really like amazing breakthroughs. So this is going to provide evidence to lower the regulation in there, and then hopefully there's some kind of, I'm not sure, maybe grants or something, or some kind of like prize. This is the part that I'm not sure how it works, but hopefully if this can be combined with some kind of grant money from the government for unlocking certain problems, that would make it a lot more that can entice some very smart entrepreneurs to get into the space. Then they can really revolutionize these kind of spaces, whether it be hypermobility, autonomic dysfunction, vagus nerve damage, and healing it. Right now, it's impossible to even think this can completely heal or repair because, the experience we have is talking to doctors, and although doctors, there are good ones and they do their best, the ones that are good, which is very, very few in between, but they do try their best and be humble and be honest and try to help their customers. They're not going to like revolutionize the space, right? They're doctors. Most of them actually have trouble even organizing their office files. So we're not talking about very innovative people here. And I'm not downplaying doctors. They're probably pretty much keeping me alive. The ones that I took a while for me to find, but it's highly unlikely that a doctor is going to come into some kind of innovation where it's going to completely revolutionize like this kind of healing, where we're going to go from like, hey, if you do these kind of things over the next couple of years, you can kind of be manageable, and that's a victory. Go from there to the kind of outcome that could happen if a proper tech entrepreneur enters the space is like, hey, you go undergo this therapy, you come out of the other side like pretty much somebody who can do backflips. And although that even sounds silly when I'm saying it, because somebody watching this right now who's as sick as me, or have these kind of conditions, you'd be like, that's wishful thinking. But that's the kind of impact that happens in other spaces all the time when somebody enters that space and really revolutionizes it. So I have some hope for somebody to enter the space. And not just in a side angle. Like Neuralink is going to find some data within the brain that could help something like this, but that's a very indirect. If somebody could enter the space with the idea that, hey, we're going to crack down and find the core ways to reheal a vagus nerve that was damaged from an accident. We're going to find the core of resetting the autonomic nervous system for somebody that is completely out of whack, right? That's what would make that kind of difference. And I put some examples here of just like what CRISPR has been able to do, where like they got the Nobel Prize not too long ago for breakthroughs they're making with gene editing. And I put even maybe it's going to be something in gene editing that solves this. But from a recent conversation I had with somebody from one of the admins in a group that I'm in on Facebook, like kind of got some more information how like even if somebody was to do gene editing, they're more likely to help issues with that is a little bit more straightforward, like such as cancer. It's like you either have the mutation or not, and if you can solve that issue and fix that strand in the gene that causes that mutation, then you completely heal it. Also like autism, if you have that kind of gene that causes it and you were to remove that part or edit it out when the baby's young or whatever, then that's that baby's no longer autistic. So those kind of things are kind of more black and white, and I think it makes sense that's going to help it. Whereas hypermobility is not so black and white, where people like me, it took me literally 10 years to even find out what I was born with. Right, like just in the last couple of weeks, I was able to find out that something I was born with, which was, from birth, had a predisposition for me to end up like this. And so the point I was making is that it's more complicated than just something like fixing like one main gene, right? So anyways, that's my whole little rant on tech entrepreneur part. And then the last one is a community, or even we can call it a small country. So I'm trying to think how to explain what I'm thinking for this, is that if you look at the life of somebody who is suffering from these kind of chronic illnesses, we're not just talking about like one axis, one layer of issues. It's something that affects basically every other layer of life for that person and for people suffering from that. So I'll give an example. Like, let's say somebody is believes or is in a certain community. Let's just start at the community level. What's an example of a community? Like, let's say people who are vegetarians. Okay, they're a community. They believe they should not eat meat because animals should not be killed, or maybe they're just vegetarian because of the health reason. Whatever it may be, they are in that space. Okay. What do they need? When they go to the restaurant, it means that they can integrate and participate in a restaurant. They just have to order, only vegetarian food, right? If they are a little bit more hardcore, they don't even want to see the chicken, maybe they can go to a restaurant that's mainly vegetarian. So that integration for them is fine. And if you look at that vegetarian person and if how they're affected if they go through different paths, like different types of, let's say, recreational activities, right? Let's say they go to the movies. Well, vegetarians can just watch pretty much any movie that a normal meat eater watches, right? Unless the whole point of the movie is about like supersizing yourself with on meat or something. It's there's no difference, right? That's the point. And now if you take that into you get my point. A vegetarian can do many things in their life in the normal society and community without having any issues. Okay. And then even digitally, as the world moves more digital, and with COVID world, and as time passes, we're getting more and more digital, and things that we value and want and everything like that is becoming more digital. Even within the digital space, a lot of communities have no difference, right? If you're like one of the strong communities or groups of people that have a big voice, let's say could be like Black Lives Matter, for example. Well, somebody working from home who is, really believes or really, has a like a hardcore belief or a hard opinion in that topic does not have any difference if they're working from home or if they are going to a job for their day-to-day living. I'm just giving an example. All right, now if you ask that same kind of information but for people who are same question for people who are suffering from chronic illnesses such as hypermobility or has autonomic dysfunction and stuff, and I go through some of the same examples, you'll see there's a big difference, right? For example, restaurants. Well, somebody who has hypermobility and gut issues and they can only eat one or two foods, they can't go to any restaurant, right? I went to the ER last month because I ate the same organic red garnet sweet potatoes, but they were just from a different farm, which I wasn't told because on the box everything looks the same, and I had to go to the ER for it. That is not, even if the restaurant was like they said that, oh yeah, we can make it without this and that, we'll use this kind of thing, even if it got to that point, which there's no restaurant that does that, I still would not take the risk because I'll be so afraid that whoever the person is behind the kitchen, if they have some residue left from other meals they cooked, I would not go to that. Okay, let's talk about movies. Well, people are walking around with all kinds of like now there's COVID, but even aside from COVID, there's all stuff going on. Like if I go to a movie theater and somebody has perfume on, I'm going to have a reaction and I can't go to that. So if I go through the list of things that I could possibly do outside, granted I wasn't being able to, even go outside a little bit more, maybe I can walk around a little bit, it wouldn't work, right? And if you bring that to digital, surprisingly, somebody from this kind of chronic illness actually has a limitation even digitally because we can't interact with our computer and devices as well, right? That's on like one forefront. There's a lot of people who just can't focus that much. Like the amount of thinking they do has a effect on their overall like other effects. Like if they have any kind of stress, not the normal kind of stress that we are normally used to knowing, like there's stress from your job or stress from your loved ones, that could be very like actually very stressful. I'm talking about people who have stress like on bad days sometimes I can't even listen to some certain music, or I can't like stand watching something on TV because it gets my heart pounding and it makes me feel like I'm going to have some kind of other reaction from it, right? These are not normal stress, right? This is very, very sensitive to stress to the point where you can't even function normal life because of it. So the point I'm trying to make with all this, if you go down this entire thing, what people of this kind need is a whole community for themselves, right? One of the best things I've found for myself in the last year is this Facebook group. Although it's kind of silly, like it's a little Facebook group with a few people in there, it is so therapeutic for me. Even if I'm able to just see other people's experiences and have that consistent reminder that I'm not the only one suffering from it is a huge relief, right? And this is coming from somebody who normally is not like really a believer in any kind of really community. It's something that I lost belief in since like high school, but that's just a personal matter, nothing to do with health. But I'm turning back to find a community, and I feel like I kind of found in some ways a community, but it's just not. It's just like a shadow of a community online. Although it's tremendous and it helps a lot, but a world where there would be a corner or like a little small country, let's say, for example, where it has a lot more customization, where somebody like myself could live and have more breathing room, to do some stuff outside, to go outside sometimes and still be safe and everything like that. While this is where I try to bring in some reality part, because I'm not talking about just having a fairy tale. We're not talking about Alice in Wonderland here, just so I can have a walk around the park. But the other part would be really important is that that area or that country, that's why I'm using the word country, would have not these issues, not regulations towards entrepreneurs who cannot innovate in certain health spaces, right? If that place did not have any of these regulations, then it can become something strong, meaning everybody in that space is in the same mission. I mean, quite literally, not just because something they believe, but literally they're facing that issue, that health problem every single day. So they're there. And then certain entrepreneurs, very smart people, will be going into and basically residing there and working to heal those people out. And maybe the cool thing would be when people can in the end actually graduate out of that community and go in other parts of the world and live like like the rest of the people, or what have you. But the point is, this is why I put it as the number 3. Probably the least likely, but as naive as it sounds, I think this is one of the best ways that would be, even if we were to not have all the answers right now, it would mean a lot to people who are suffering in this direction, to have people they can literally see and be amongst people who are going through the same things on a day-to-day basis, while some other perks, such as the legislations and whatever the laws and whatnot, being a bit more open, so people can actually heal out of this once and for all. That is pretty much it. Yeah, that's it.